welcome to TransParents. We are here again. I am one of the co-hosts, Amber. My pronouns are she, her, and you can find me on TikTok at Moonchild77. And this
Hey
is my
y'all,
lovely co-host.
I am Jenny. My pronouns are also she, her. You can find me at Trans Loving Mama on TikTok and Lemonade and Blue Sky. I will be on
She's on.
Instagram soon, one day.
Oh gosh, no,
I
I
hate
don't even
socials.
pay attention.
I hate it.
I don't even pay attention to my Instagram, and it's
I
like,
know.
and I'm joining another one now to do my
Yeah.
audio rooms from LinkedIn, and it's just like, oh, do I really want somewhere else sending me notifications?
I hate them all. I hate them all. But
Yeah.
I did have some folks on TikTok reach out to me because, maybe TikTok will go away, maybe it won't. And they were like, oh, are you on Instagram?
Right.
Well, I kind of hate Meta, but I guess I'll do it. Hi, Jeffrey.
Right. No, I'm the same. I'm the same way. I'm not into Meta. I don't really want to give Meta my any of my. That's the reason why this is not on Facebook. We don't do this on Facebook
Right.
for a reason.
Right.
And so I don't really want to do it. Instagram, I've stayed away from it for the same exact
Yeah.
reason, because they're attached. And yeah, I just
How I feel.
not my cup of tea there. So welcome this week. We decided we were trying to figure out what we were going to do, because we all know there's just so many unanswered possibilities on the horizon. Cooper,
What's up,
hey,
Cooper?
maybe AP is having a good old nap. There is no telling, and AP has had his hands full. So if he is taking a nap, I
Good
don't
for
blame him,
him.
Cooper.
I
Like,
love a nap.
seriously,
I
right?
support a nap.
I'm not a nap person. I wish I could take naps, but I'm just not, unless I'm like sick. That is the only time my body will let me take a nap. Otherwise, like, and if I take one, usually everybody's like, what's wrong with you? Like, what are you about to come down with? Is this the flu? Like, do you have
Oh, no.
COVID? Like, what's going on?
Oh,
Like, we're staying away from her. She's sick. Oh well. But we figured we'd review 2024 so that we kind of have an idea of where we are with the anti-trans legislation. And granted, we had an episode where we covered anti-trans in March of last year. And then we did a pro-trans legislation that we kind of looked at both sides of the coin. And so, being we know there's a new president coming in, we know that his cabinet has certain ideas about transgender people, that we're probably going to see some shifts. So we kind of wanted to set the foundation for what this year is going to look like. So with that, I'm going to start here. We're going to use several resources tonight, and I'll have you know that Erin Reed is behind all of them. I have put the links to all of hers on both LinkedIn and on Transparent or on YouTube so that you can access her website, her information. She has a legislation tracker. So if you are an ally, if you are a parent, if you are a trans person and you want to know where is safe, where these laws, how these laws affect you, Erin has probably one of the best up to date for the US out there. And that is actually where I get all of mine. If I have a question about what's going on and an article doesn't make it clear enough, I can go to Erin Reed's tracker and Erin will have exactly what I need. So tonight we are actually using...
She has a newsletter also that I subscribe to. It's Erin in the Morning, which I think you actually linked those. So yeah, you can even sign up for her newsletter and really stay on top of stuff too.
Right, because I'm part of her subscribe newsletter, and so that's actually, I'm pulling it up from Erin in the Morning from her Substack. That's what we're pulling all this stuff up from tonight. So the first one that we're going to talk about is actually, she has, between herself and several volunteers, they keep up this legislation tracker. And when legislation is in session, they have people who update their website every 15 minutes. That is how on top of it they stay. Now, I will say their pro legislation doesn't stay as up to date as their anti, because anti is what's going to be more impactful.
Yeah.
Right? So that's where they concentrate on. And honestly, that's where there's a lot more bills in the anti than there are in the pro. So again, there's more to keep up with, and because they negatively can impact so much greater, that's why they stay on top of that one. So your pro legislation may not be as up to date. The anti, they are updated constantly. So with that being said, we're going to go, the post I put out this week, I kind of mentioned like the top 5 that are considered the most common and most dangerous. I wouldn't necessarily put them as the most dangerous, but they are the most common that we're seeing. And those would be the DEI ban, which we all know. This law affects not only trans students and staff, but it also other marginalized groups such as people of color, people with disabilities, and of course, LGBTQ plus people in general. So far in 2024, there were 45 bills presented in Congress across the U.S. and 4 passed. Pronoun bans. This law violates the right to freedom of expression and the right to respect for one's identity and privacy, creating a hostile and unsafe environment for trans and non-binary people in schools. In 2024, 19 bills were brought forward, 2 passed. Pride flag bans. This law targets the LGBTQ pride flag, a symbol of solidarity, visibility, and celebration for the LGBTQ plus community, denying them the rights to express their identity and culture. In 2024, 13 bills were brought forward, 1 passed. Online obscenity law. Now, this one I do consider dangerous. This law can be used to censor, harass, or prosecute trans and LGBTQ plus people who create, share, or access online content related to their sexuality, gender identity, or expression, such as educational resources, support groups, or even artistic works. In 2024, 83 bills were brought forward on this topic. 14 passed. Now, new types. New types of anti-trans legislation that was coming forward in March of 2024 last year that we talked about. LGBTQ grooming bill. This law was based on the false and harmful notion that trans and LGBTQ people were predators who try to recruit or convert children, criminalizing any positive or supportive interaction with them. 4 bills were brought forward, none passed. Defining trans people out of law. This law would effectively erase the legal recognition and protection of trans people, undermining their right to equality and dignity. In 2024, 51 bills were brought forward, 3 passed. Don't say gay. The law denies trans and LGBTQ students the right to education and information, preventing them from learning about themselves and others respectfully and inclusively. 47 bills were brought forward, 4 passed. Now, the last category I listed on this week's post were called newest types of anti-trans legislation. And some of these we were seeing last year as well. The first one, forced detransition. These laws mandate that trans individuals, including minors, must detransition and cease any gender-affirming care. Bathroom bans for trans adults. Several states are introducing bills that would ban transgender adults now from using bathrooms that align with their gender identity, including provisions for lawsuits if trans individuals are encountered in the bathroom. Here's the specifics. 2024, 48 bills were brought forward, 6 passed. This is for trans people, not including public spaces, colleges, or schools, because there are other bills that include those as well. 2 such bills would allow lawsuits if trans people are encountered in the bathroom. 1 bill in Montana would ban trans people from publicly owned bathrooms. Another in Missouri would even make it unlawful public discrimination to allow a trans person in the bathroom of their gender identity. And you talk about going all the way around, trying to make an excuse for something. Okay, book bans. There is a resurgence in book bans targeting literature that includes LGBTQ plus themes such as genderqueer, The Handmaid's Tale, Flamer, The Perks of Being a Wallflower, and more. During 2024, PEN America found 10,046 instances of individual books banned, affecting 4,231 different titles. Texas was rebuked by higher courts for book bans in 2024. 52 bills were brought forward, 2 passed. Another, employment law weaponization. Some states are pushing bills that would ban trans adults from using bathrooms in the workplace, effectively weaponizing employment law against transgender individuals. Legal recognition stripping. This is a new bill that aims to strip legal recognition from trans people entirely, preventing them from updating their identification documents and reverting gender marker changes that were made years or even decades ago. Decades, guys. Decades. You know this new thing that just happened? Yeah, I want to point that out. Between 2022 and 2024, 10 states passed such legislation. In Kansas, Florida, and Texas, trans people can no longer update their driver's license, and some states have begun reverting gender marker changes. Those who have lived as their legal gender for years may face forced reversion of their identification documents. Similar legislation has been introduced in Texas, Missouri, South Carolina, and Wyoming. The ACLU legislative attacks on the trans community proliferated over 2023 and 2024. These anti-trans laws have caused an increase in suicide attempts up to 72% in some states. The CDC reports 1 in 4 trans youth have attempted to unalive themselves in the last year. So when I started Mama Bear over a year ago, the audio room on LinkedIn, it was because I noticed that there was a disproportionate amount of youth who are unaliving themselves within the trans community because of their lack of support. And that was one reason why I started the conversation, because it's to support kids. Traumatized kids grow up to be traumatized adults if these kids make it to adulthood. And I didn't want that if to be there anymore, because we should have plenty of children that grow up to be adults, functioning adults. And you get functioning adults because we support them emotionally, mentally, physically. And that's what pro-legislation does. Anti-legislation does not. And just seeing that this stat in the last year, and I didn't even look to see, and I don't know if they've done it yet, to see what the stat has changed to since the new incoming president was elected. Because Jenni and I, and even in the community, we know this has sped up. We know that this has increased since he was elected.
What I know is that as of Thursday, so I think we were 2 days into 2025. It might have been Thursday. I could be wrong about this day, y'all. Forgive me, but it was very, very soon to 2025. There were already 125 anti-trans, anti-LGBTQ, anti-queer bills that had been introduced. I think we were at 661 at last time I counted back in October, maybe early November of last year.
August. I'll pull it up.
Just really recently. And, you know, at 125 within the first week, I think we're going to outpace that easily.
Right.
I think
this was 120.
When we hear those things, when we hear things like, oh, well, 100 were introduced and 4 passed, and we go, oh, okay, only 4. Every single one of them that passes sets a precedent and sets a guideline and lays out a path for the next thing.
Right. That's the big one. And I was trying, she actually has a link in one of these articles that I actually was up earlier. Maybe it was the one I was just on, because we're gonna go through all of these, but she actually has, here we go. This goes to her legislative tracker. So if you've never seen it before, that's what you're going to be seeing on our screen here.
I think there's also a website called like translegislation.org.
Right. But I was going to say this one is actually for 2025, because this is telling you what we have. Does this have the summary? See, so far, okay, so according to the summary, actually 2025, we've hit 131 now.
Oh,
and you can see that she actually separates it out across the tab. So 19 are for gender affirming care, 6 are for pronouns, 7 are don't say gay, 5 are drag bans, 16 are bathroom bans, 9 are in legal recognition, 5 are online obscenity laws, 15 are book bans, 10 are forced outings of schools. And that's just, and you're seeing that at the top. So there are 131, and then there are 7 that rolled over from 2024.
That makes sense. Okay.
And I actually think I had seen that there were like 13 that had traveled over. So I'm not entirely sure that one's accurate. Not entirely sure. But like I said, we are going to go into these more, but just from what you were saying, like we are already seeing, and I've got the stat in here. It's like there were 80. Where did she have it? Because I listed it in here. She had something like, originally, it was something like there were, I think before we started 2024, there were like 80 bills that were like getting ready to start for 2024, that were ready for the next session. And we're at 131 getting ready for this session is what we're getting at. So in other words, you're already seeing almost double from last year before the session even opens.
So we'll easily outpace last year, especially with such a strong showing from one side. That said, our side is really dropping the ball here too. We are a big fat letdown. Here's what's interesting, Amber. Sundays, I usually one Sunday a month, I try to go spend with my parents, and we did that today. And I was there with my daughter, I was there with my husband, I was there with my mom and dad, and we were on their TV. We weren't really watching it. You know how it is. Sometimes you just have a TV on for background. Was about the Holocaust. And I was trying to read up on some stuff before we came on tonight. And I was reading about, the stat that I just gave, which is already outdated. It's already gone up by 6.
Right.
And, it just amazed me, because whenever I talked to my own mother recently, or when I talked to my parents about, how Donald Trump said, on day one, I'm going to get rid of all this transgender lunacy, I believe is the word he used. They don't know that. It's like they've never heard that. They don't know what I'm talking about. And it's a big frustration for me, because I'm like, y'all act like I'm just mad at like nothing. Like I'm the old man shaking my fist at a cloud. I am mad for legitimate reasons. These things are really happening, and you continue to support. Now, none of my parents voted for Trump. That said, they continue to support the GOP, which is just Trump fest at this point. Bad. I mean, you support Trump if you're voting for anyone in the GOP. Don't be stupid. And they just have no they've never seen that. They don't know what I'm talking about. So of course we get into the discussion, which is never a good idea. And they talked about, it's terrible every time. It never goes well. Because I'm angry. I don't care at this point. I'm beyond that. Oh, can't we have civil conversation? No, we cannot. No. We can't, because you don't even know what your guy is saying. You don't even know what your people, if you don't want to hold with Trump, cool. You don't even know what the people you elect, that party, that you have no idea what they're saying. So no, I don't want to have a civil discussion with you when you come to the table with absolutely nothing. And I'm supposed to just educate you about your own people. Figure it out and come back to me when you have something intelligent to say, because I'm not interested. So I shut it down, and I'm angry and I'm hateful, and I'm not going to feel bad about it. That's how I am. My child is having his rights taken away. So, they're unaware. And when I started to break it down to them, it was very clear how absolutely astonishing this really is. I don't think they were as astonished even as I was, because the more I would put it, give air to it and say it, I'm like, holy crap. So of course we got into the sports bans. And I thought, I know I read it as some silly, tiny number of NCAA athletes that identify as transgender, but I'm going to look it up, because I don't want to come to the table with bad numbers. The NCAA president, as of October of 2024, which keep in mind was just a minute ago. We're not talking October years ago. We're talking 3 months ago, said that he is aware of fewer than 10 transgender athletes in the 500,000 athletes, and less than 10, fewer than 10, that he is aware of that are transgender. We are going after this tiny, tiny bit of the population. And when you start saying those things and you go, holy crap, man, what is really going on here? Why? Like, why?
Distraction.
So I said that to my parents. I said, well, why? Tell me why you think we would do that. And they said, well, Jenni, how would you feel if your daughter was a soccer player? And I'm going to be honest, I didn't even let the sentence finish. I said, stop. Stop. 10. Let's go back to the number 10. We are in 50 United States. 50 states. 500,000 athletes. Go back to the number 10. It's statistically impossible that you even suggested my daughter would come up against one of them. And if she did, okay.
So what?
Like, sometimes somebody's just better than you. Sometimes. And
we worked. we talked about this last year. We passed that here in North Carolina, right? Where
Yeah.
female students cannot play on
Yeah.
school or collegiate teams,
Yeah.
right? And that's in public or private school. Now, at the time, we had in 4 years had 2 students who applied who wanted permission to play. By the
Yeah.
time the law was put in place, they had graduated out of college
And
and this
weren't
no
even there.
longer applied. And at the time the law passed, there were zero trans
Zero.
people asking to play on
Zero.
sports teams.
Yeah.
But you passed the bill anyway.
Yeah. And not only that,
whose award was being taken? Whose spot in the pool was being
whose
taken?
spot?
Whose spot in the track was being taken?
Not to mention, sometimes somebody just does have an advantage. If that's the argument you want to make, that trans women have this advantage because we all know men are so much stronger and better athletically than all women.
If that's the truth, then stop the Olympics. If that's the truth, stop the Olympics. Because the Olympics is about people who have natural advantages over other people.
It is.
Other people can't leap
100%.
like Simone Biles.
No, you're just not.
Nobody had the wingspan of Michael Phelps.
Michael Phelps.
Those people were phenomenal in their
100%
sport because
cisgender,
naturally
and they
had
just biologically do have an advantage. Are we going to start setting standards for everybody's muscle mass,
nope,
hormone levels, arm length? Are we going to start measuring? Are we going to start saying you have a standard? It's already understood that if you want to play basketball and you're really, really tall, you have an advantage. Are we going to have height requirements now? And when I put it in that perspective with my parents, it was nice to see that at least my husband and my parents were kind of like, I mean, I see what you're saying, Jen, but that's about as far as I got. I see what you're saying. And I'm like, but you really don't. You really, really don't. Because you are still coming back to me not 2 minutes later. But Jenni, what if?
No.
You don't get it then. You don't get it. What if she was on a sports team with a trans athlete? I don't know. Try harder, train harder. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Let's go to the map here. Because I wanted to, you brought up an important thing. So this is part of Erin's work here that you will see on my screen. And this is her anti-trans legislation map. And actually, at the moment, this is the adult map. This is what it looks like. So let's go into some of her summaries that she made for the year. The national
when you say that, do you mean that these are legislation that directly impacts and targets adults?
Yes. Okay. This is her trans adult map because she's got a youth map that we will go into. She's got 2 separate ones. For the longest time, and actually she has a piece somewhere in here. I'm not sure if it's in this one or if it's the 120 bill, but she's got one that she makes the comment that they concentrated on youth first because youth were what the majority of the bills were coming out about. And now, since 2023, we're pushing into adult bans. And so now she's had to create 2 separate maps. And so in 2024, she expanded her map and started making both an adult risk and a youth risk so that you understood there were differences between the 2. And so let's see, summary of updates. The national picture remains unchanged as a high risk was instituted for transgender adults on the map in the lead up to 2024 in the election. The District of Columbia anti-trans policies have already taken shape, including a ban on trans people from bathrooms in the House office buildings, which we've seen Nancy Mace go after, and further legislation proposing targeting trans people on all federal property, including potentially airports. As a result, the city is now in the low risk category rather than the safest category, though this move may not mean much for most residents who do not frequent Capitol buildings. 2 other states, Wyoming and Georgia, expect anti-trans legislation targeting trans adults to be heard in 2025, with local news covering such potential pushes, including bathroom bans. Nationwide risk is high. Attacks on trans people were a significant part of the 2024 election cycle, and Trump has already shown an appetite to appoint anti-trans extremists to major posts in the government. Those include Harmon Dillon, a major anti-trans attorney who represents Chloe Cole, and Trump's pick for FTC Commissioner Andrew Ferguson, who has stated he will target youth and adult care. Here are the categories. Do not travel, Florida and Texas. 2 states have earned do not travel advisories. Florida has a law that allows for the arrest of trans people for using bathrooms according to their gender identity, and another policy that targets trans people's driver's licenses. Florida has also put into effect a policy that says trans people misrepresenting their gender on their driver's license could be guilty of fraud. Local LGBT orgs have, as well as HRC, have issued travel advisories for the state. This also is in Texas. The state is not only ignoring court-ordered driver's license changes for trans adults, but is creating a database of people attempting to make such changes. So they actually are creating a database to track trans people. There are actually 3 different states that are trying to push that.
That's not fucking terrifying at all.
Nope.
That's completely normal. Let's track people. That's great.
Well, that's for example, perfect. Odessa, Texas has passed a bounty ordinance that puts $10,000 bounties on trans people in bathrooms, with more legislation expected this year. The worst states: Alabama, Idaho,
I hope they get a drought,
Kansas, Louisiana,
at the same time.
Right? Missouri, Montana, Oklahoma, North Dakota, Tennessee, and Utah. These states have passed deeply troubling legislation targeting trans adults in extremely harmful new ways. Kansas and Utah have bathroom bans for trans adults. Alabama has passed a Don't Say Gay bill that includes a bathroom ban on college campuses. States including Kansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Montana, Oklahoma, and Tennessee have gone so far as to legislatively erase trans people, effectively removing any legal rights associated with their gender identity. Other states, Kansas, Montana, North Dakota, Oklahoma, and Tennessee, prohibit any changes to birth certificates. In Kansas, this could force people to actually have their gender markers reverted. These states could also start targeting transgender adult gender-affirming care. Florida has already done so, banning 80%. Idaho has an extreme ban on state funds for gender-affirming care. High-risk states, and you can see these. I'm not going to go through all of them. I am going to nitpick some of these. Nebraska's governor has issued an executive order ending legal recognition of trans people. Arkansas has laws that permit the refusal of medical care to LGBT individuals based on religious grounds. Nice. Although each of these states has laws targeting trans adults, none have done so to the extent of the worst states. Moderate risk. At North Carolina, we're actually considered moderate. We really have not done a whole lot. I'll be honest, we were the first ones to pass a bathroom ban, HB2, and that took billions of dollars of revenue out of North Carolina. And I think that's why North Carolina has been probably one of the slower ones to really pick back up on this. It does not mean that they won't. Low-risk states, again, Michigan and Nevada have enacted fairly robust non-discrimination policies, but fall short in ensuring health equity. And again, these are things that we're going to keep talking about. Right. Again, your most protective states, your blue states, we know these. Let me go over to one of the others that she really talked about here. The 120 bills that we were talking about that were already coming forward. 80 bills were filed in 2023. The bulk of the bills, the new bills, are coming from Texas and Missouri, 2 of the earlier states that released pre-filed legislation ahead of 2025. States like South Carolina, New Hampshire, Georgia, Wyoming, and Montana all feature multiple anti-LGBTQ plus bills, with more being added every day. 13 states in all have filed: Alabama, Arizona, Georgia, Indiana, Missouri, Montana, Nevada, New Hampshire, Ohio, South Carolina, Texas, Washington, and Wyoming. This year, several states' bills...
Oklahoma didn't make the list?
No, neither did North Carolina. I was really surprised about this. But this year, several states aim to strip legal recognition from trans people entirely. Between 2022 and 2024, 10 states passed such legislation. In Kansas, Florida, and Texas, I read these stats to you earlier about who could and couldn't do their changes anymore. The bathroom bans, again, I told you about Montana, Missouri, where it's unlawful to even allow someone in the bathroom. That's where I pulled a lot of those stats from here early on. Let's see. And of course, several other categories of bills have seen activities such as drag bans, forced outing of trans students, Don't Say Gay bills, birth certificate gender change bans, driver license gender change bans, and more. And this is just, and let me add this, because we did talk about this. Katie was here a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about the Scrimani case up at the Supreme Court. In the coming months, a landmark Supreme Court decision will determine the constitutional fate of bills targeting trans people. While the case centers on a law restricting trans medical care, its broader implications go far deeper, addressing whether discrimination against trans people qualifies as sex discrimination warranting heightened scrutiny. The court may also weigh whether trans individuals are granted equal protection around their status. This ruling has the potential to either shut the door on many of these bills and laws or swing it wide open, unleashing a flood of legislative attacks that could make 2025 a historically devastating year for trans rights. And that, I think that's probably one of the scarier things, is we're just setting up for what could be I hate to say it, a complete poop show. I'll say it nicely. A poop show is where we could be heading. So what are your thoughts on that so far? Right. Like there's not.
I don't know. I think, I don't know. I've got a dog chewing a bone right here. I don't know. I don't know.
I kept hearing the chewing.
Doesn't bother me. It sucks. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to help. I have to be reminded by my therapist that there are people who, like, this is what they spend their life doing.
Right.
And they have tools that I don't have. They have abilities I don't have. They have resources I don't have. And that's why they are best to do that. And what I need to do is use my resources, my tools, my platform, anything that I have to do my own part and let them do theirs. And then I've heard, like, well, worrying doesn't add any days. I can't even remember what the saying is.
It doesn't, but you need to be aware.
We need to be aware. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Because even like I said, in talking to people like my parents, like my husband, they're just, what? I didn't even know that. Well, right. Of course you don't. Of course you don't.
You're not paying attention.
Nobody expects you to know anything.
No. Sorry. And like I said, I pulled this map back up because I didn't realize that it actually is showing on this one is showing both. So the big map is the adult, and then the one in the lower right-hand corner is the youth map. So you can see the differences between the two. But what that's pretty much telling you is that our adults, where it was just the youth, we're actually moving it right into the adults, which we said this.
Catching up.
We told y'all, if we let it happen with the youth, they're going to move into the adults.
Yeah.
And after they're done with trans, what do you think they're going after next?
Who was it? It was I can't remember the Republican. It's a Republican. It's somebody in, Congress who said, and I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say where they are because I'm going to mess it up. But anyway, it is a high name Republican who just recently tweeted, that gay marriage should be illegal again. Yeah, they're going to go right back for it. Why? Yes, 100%. And then who? I don't know. It's going to be somebody. They're going to pick somebody every time. It sure does make it easy to ignore real issues. Someone said recently,
what the gas prices? I got a question for you. Did you notice that you might have? Has anybody who are your Republican circle, your conservative circles, right? Have you noticed that they're not talking about the grocery prices anymore? They're not talking about the gas prices anymore?
No.
Or the economy and how horrible it is?
No, they don't care. I don't know what they care about. I really don't. I don't know what they care about. I just don't.
I think it's eggs their again. Everybody freaking out about the price of eggs. Like, where's that conversation?
Yeah, where is it?
Are they fixing that? Are they talking about any And here's the bigger question. So those things that were being complained about, the price of gas, the price of groceries, the economy, wage. Are you hearing Trump and any of that incoming cabinet talk about fixes for any of that stuff?
No.
Yeah, I haven't either.
But I do love that they're fighting over which immigrants and brown people are allowed to be here in this country. I love that.
Yes,
I love
that. And trans, whether or not those people get to exist. I like how they're being able. They get to sit back and go, I don't know if these people I think we should allow in the country, or should they get to stay in the country? Oh, but these can.
But these ones can. I heard somebody recently speak on how when you're a Republican legislator, fill in the blank, and you come forward with this, oh, we're going to do this against trans people. And then what happens is you actually get that thing done, that it's a way to go, look, I set a goal. I told you I was going to do something. We got that done.
Yep, so we did it.
I did what I said I was going to do. And I understand why that would be impressive, because we all want to elect people who do follow through on their promises, who get things done that they're going to get done. But it's just the fact of like, okay, that's what you wanted done though? Like,
right? That was what you were going after?
Like, children are hungry. I mean, people are having to off CEOs to get the attention about our healthcare crisis. We have a housing crisis.
And they still don't really, I'll be honest, they still don't want to talk about it.
But it does. It makes sense that, you know, you would look at it and go, well, I elected Jim Bob and, you know, fucking Cletus, and he got this done. And so then it feels like you were successful. Your candidate, you're the person you elected was successful in doing something they said they were going to get done. And there's no mind for why are they trying to convince you that these fewer than 10 athletes are that important? Why have you considered, like, why do they want me to think that's that important? Even if I believe that you cannot change your gender, you cannot change your sex, I disagree with it, I think it's wrong for whatever reason, why do I still think like that's the important issue to go after? That can like be my belief and I can think that. But it's really, and I think that comes back to, you know, how we can't educate about this, because when you learn that it's fewer than 10 out of 500,000, you are more likely to go, wait, why am I so worried about this then? Now, my stepmother did say, well, Jenni, the fear is that if we let it be 10, then it's going to be 20, then it's going to be 30. Do you realize how many 30 out of 500,000 is? Like, okay. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm trying to keep it together at this point. These are scary times. We really, I think I'm with you. You know, we just have to be aware. But if people aren't willing to take any action about that, if we're not willing to write our letters or show up at these events or speak, then what's the point? You know, I'm just aware. You know, it's like being aware that smoking causes cancer while you buy a pack of cigarettes. Like, it doesn't matter. The awareness is fine, I guess, but
it ain't gonna save you.
It's not gonna save you. You have to take some different action. My husband and I talked on the drive home too about what allyship and how, you know, I never propose to speak from the position of a trans person. However, there are some kind of blanket statements I will make that I know they make, but I'm always going to try to speak from my own perspective. But that allyship has to be so much more, you know, when my husband sat there saying, well, see, I mean, I do think this and I do think that. So I do care. And you are kind of pulling me more over to your side. And I'm like, but your inaction about it, for you to just stand there and be like, oh yeah, I mean, I do agree about that point, is meaningless. It's great, I guess, but it's meaningless. And we're not at a time right now where I have time to educate, to pull you over to my side. We are at critical. We are at, oh shit. That's where we're at right now. We're in the movie when the and you're like racing to disconnect the wires. It's bad. There's no time. I don't have time to teach you how to be an empathetic or compassionate person. I don't have time to teach you how to like read or learn beyond middle school biology, XXYY chromosomes. That's right. I'm done. Like, I hope you.
We can't teach curiosity. We can't teach curiosity.
Right.
And you have to be curious to want to learn more and to be willing to listen to other people. I, in the course of reviewing all this information, I knew that this bill had gone forward. I knew that they had voted on it, and I was very disappointed in the bill. But I didn't quite know all the details about the bill until Erin had a very lovely article that broke it down that I had looked at. So we just recently passed, this is a bill for the budget for the military.
Oh, girl.
And within it, we removed trans-affirming care for military families from military members. We wouldn't support any of that. Now, I want to show you this article.
I read it. Isn't it amazing? That's amazing.
These are Democratic. So, before I even flip back. So, everybody, I know that we talk about the conservative side and how they attack.
Yeah.
But that does not mean that the other side is any better. And I'm going to say that because
who do trans people have to turn to? Like, they are fully being attacked now from all sides. We
right.
can't even.
Right.
If
you're not going to stand up for them, then don't sit here and say that you're pro-trans.
Yep.
And this is literally an article about where they removed those provisions, and 37 Democratic senators voted for it. Now, I don't believe anybody in North Carolina, and I don't even think in Oklahoma, voted. Yeah, none of our Democrats voted. If you have Democrats, I don't know if you got any Democrats over there, Jenni.
We have some.
But I was just saying, none of ours. We don't have many either, but none of ours did either. They didn't vote for this. They voted against it. Thank God. And then I saw another one. This is in the Senate, and then in the House there were 81 Democrats that sided with this.
Yeah.
And again, if you're supposed to be about rights, why are you siding with this shit?
You gotta imagine. So you're talking people who go into the military in this country, it's something like 1% of the population.
Yep.
It's just as small as the trans population itself. Of that 1%, now remember that trans people really only make up 1 to 2% of the entire population. So of that 1% that are military,
yep,
then you've got a fraction of those folks who either are trans, have trans kids, are married to a trans person, whatever. You are talking about an astronomically tiny number.
Right.
A tiny number of people. If someone listen,
less
I'm
people
not
than the number. It's less people than voted against them.
Right.
That's how sad this shit is nationally.
Nationally.
More people voted against it than the bill even applies to, guys.
Right. And I'm not like pro-military. I'm not anti-military. I have complex feelings about the military. But I will tell you this. I'm the daughter of a veteran. I'm the wife of a veteran. I grew up being told to respect veterans. I love and honor veterans. And I believe that if a man, woman, they, them, I don't give a flying flip. If you go serve your country, you get whatever the hell you want.
Care you deserve.
You stepped up and did something I would never do. And so that became an argument tonight too, where it was, well, we shouldn't be paying the military shouldn't have to pay for their surgeries, but it's okay for them to pay for their hormones, because we wouldn't pay for like if I wanted a boob job, if I was in the military. I said, right. Because you're talking about one thing that might be cosmetic. And for a trans person, that is their health care. The hormones,
yes,
the surgery is the recognized, approved, backed up scientifically, yes, all the things.
Gender affirming care.
That is their treatment. So no, we're not talking about a boob job or a nose job, which I would really love to have. We're not talking about that. We're talking about their treatment for what they have going on. I'm not gonna call it a disorder. Gender dysphoria, I believe that it's neurobiological variance. Right. But that's a symptom of it, obviously. Yes, that's their treatment. So then I don't know if you read the rest of Erin's article or another one of Erin's article on this about the total cost that it costs for if all the trans people in the military wanted a surgery, what that total cost would look like. And she included not just the cost of the treatment itself, but the downtime, the cost to the military of having a person take leave for however many weeks, yada da. That cost was one number, and it was in the hundreds of thousands. The cost to train the replacements for those people was in the billions. It was over 1 billion with a B. So the cost to just give people the damn health care they need, even if you factored in time off, loss of productivity, time military spends on things during recovery, if you factor in all of that,
it's about like it's pretty much like you have people who look for solutions, and then you look for people who look for arguments, right?
Right.
So the solution is, hey, look, this doesn't cost nearly as much if we uphold their dignity, right?
Right.
Here's a similar. So we have certain people who have talked about one way to end homelessness is to remove them from the streets and put them in prison. right?
Okay.
No, we've got states that have bills to do this, right? It would cost
it's a crime. It's a crime to lose your home.
Yes, to be homeless. So to go to jail would cost $108,000 a year to keep that person in jail who was homeless. Whereas you could put them in housing that is not being housed in for less than $30,000 a year.
Just give them $180,000.
Solution, instead of looking for a solution,
right.
you look for a way to profit off of their pain and put them in prison.
Right.
Now, how exactly did that help them?
And then let's talk about
context.
Let's talk about how that rolls into the privatization of prisons.
Yep.
And where prisons are a profit. It makes no sense. So you will pay 108. I can't remember the number you said. I'm gonna call it 100.
108.
You pay $100,000 to house a person. Why don't you just give them $100,000? I bet they wouldn't be homeless anymore. Oh, I know. No, they'd spend it on drugs. Are you sure? Are you sure? I see and know of a lot of people who are out there just like living in their car who literally have jobs.
Right. Right. No, it is abysmal. But because I knew that this was going to be not a happy episode. Sorry. I did bring up one of her articles that is to be a highlight, a positive light into the episode. So, with that being said, Erin had also put in an article that pretty much talked about all the victories that we had this year. Victories! So I want to talk about our court victories and our policy victories. And we'll highlight some of the other ones, but I don't want to go through all of it right this second. We may do another episode on that. So court victories. Montana's gender-affirming care ban enjoined by the state Supreme Court unanimously, a decision that will not be impacted by whatever the U.S. court decides, which is awesome. So what that means is that no matter what the Supreme Court decides, Montana will still have their gender affirming care ban, or they'll still be able to have gender affirming care.
Gotcha.
I think that's awesome. Over out in California, there was a forced outing ban that was actually blocked. Texas, their book ban was blocked by the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. Fourth Circuit ruled that the gender identity is a protected characteristic and that Medicaid bans are unconstitutional here in North Carolina and West Virginia because they were trying to block them here. Federal judge ruled trans teens can play soccer in New Hampshire, enjoining the law. Federal judge rules trans women teachers in Florida do not have to go by Mr. SJSU allowed to play volleyball despite a lawsuit claiming a player is trans in a federal judge ruling. And in Virginia, trans middle schoolers are allowed to play sports in a Virginia ruling. Now, legislative and policy victories. Maryland passed SHIELD law, shielding trans people from out-of-state persecution for getting care. These laws have already proven useful when out-of-state attorney generals have attempted to get medical records of people traveling to obtain care. Maine passed a SHIELD law despite legislators being targeted by libs of TikTok and bomb threats. Rhode Island passed a SHIELD law. California bans forced outing of transgender students in school. California passed a ban on book bans. Illinois passed a ban on book bans. Iowa has a pink triangle bill that defeated after massive protests, which is like a protective area. Arizona ballot initiatives does not proceed after Republican legislators voted down. Almost every anti-LGBTQ plus bill was defeated in Florida. That right there, it just stands out. As much as they've tried to push it, that they would be defeated. 20 anti-LGBT bills were defeated in West Virginia. Every anti-LGBT bill was defeated in Georgia. 20 in Iowa. Kansas Republican cast deciding vote against trans ban. Woohoo. Minnesota has banned gay and trans panic defenses. Every Colorado anti-trans ballot initiative failed to gather signatures to appear on the ballot. Every California ballot initiative targeting trans people failed. Despite being pushed heavily by the anti-trans campaigner Chloe Cole, and Kentucky Governor Beshear banned conversion therapy. Those were just a few of the policies. We obviously had some election victories within our trans community. Studies. I wanted to bring this out because we're actually, you know what? No, I'm not going to do it. And I'll tell you why. We're going to do, we haven't done one. And it kept coming up last year, and I think we're just going to do a whole episode on the cast review. Because there was just a lot of crap that was going on about that one. And there was a lot of pushback from different states, from different communities that were like, no, tearing apart the defense. In fact, there was so much backlash that even casts came back and not retroacted. What do you call it? Reverted? Is that what we call it? I'm trying to go in and see because she actually listed it here. Hillary Cass backpedals on her own review after a question by LGBTQ orgs because she was saying that everything that everybody was doing was against, this isn't the best for them. And it was like, yes, it is. We've already proven that it is. Like every medical organization has already proven that it is. And so you had specifically the UK was trying to use the Cass review to go in and revoke every trans thing that they had put in place as a protection. The UK was using the Cass review to like tear it all down until pretty much the writer came back and took it back herself because of so much pushback. Right? I mean we have people here in the US who were trying to use the Cass review to suddenly say WCAT is worthless. And it was just like, are you serious?
Hold on, I can't hear you.
Oh no.
Literally put my phone on do not disturb and somebody rang through anyway. And it screws up my sound every time. So yeah, keep going. I love everything you're saying, but I can't hear it.
All right. Oh, poor thing. Okay, we have sound problems sometimes, guys. Sorry about that. But yeah, I just think I think that probably cast review is something we need to just go ahead and discuss because we have not brought it up. Dr. Diana, I did put out a statement when that was released last year in rebuttal of it because there were like every major medical organization here in the US was rebutting against it. They were like, absolutely not. We're not listening to this crap. Every expert that we brought on to our show, health expert who works whether it's in the psychological, psychiatry, the physical, have all rejected the information that was brought forward in the cast review. And so yeah, it is something that we're going to address much deeper. But this is kind of evidence of how for us, for all the major medical associations to say that we say this is affirming care means that they've created evidence, they've done research, they've been able to reproduce this research over and over and over and over again with the same results for them to put it in place. All these reviews were put in place. Everything's good and golden. Every medical establishment says this is the golden standard. And then one review comes in and says, nope, no, it's not from another country. And our politicians grabbed that one review, brought it over here to the US and said, see, this is why trans people don't exist. One opinion, hear that, one opinion does not change the existence of people, whether you want it to or not. And that's pretty much what the cast review was. It was an opinion. And she got enough rebuke that she removed her opinion. and we still, but that didn't stop. We still have politicians who are still saying that the cast review proves we should not give youth trans-affirming care. So this is not the last time we will hear the cast review. So yeah, the more I think about it, we just need to do a whole episode on the cast review on that one piece of paper. And we might have some other experts on, or we just may do it ourselves and just point out just from layman's how revolting some of the language and really some of the opinions are in that paper, in that review, and how you would shame other people from it. Okay, Dr. Joseph put up here, Amber and Jenni, my heart goes to you too. I can't imagine having a child with issues such as yours, and there are scientific means to make their lives worthwhile, and yet someone objects to it, especially when it's done by politicians. By the way, Jenni, there is no issue with your nose. You were good. Yeah, I was going to say, you said something about your nose job earlier. Stop it. You've said that before. Yeah, I know. We all have things we would fix. Don't even. Oh, Cooper. I have way too much to say about that whole, yeah. historically, tragically rewritten. It was. And hopefully we're going to have more people who step forward to rebuke it. It's really hard. I'm still battling daily with how we have congressmen and politicians who want to say that something like this shouldn't exist when all the major medical associations in America have already backed this work. Aaron put up here, statistically, most gender conforming surgeries are confirming their original gender. The hype about trans is unwarranted as they are between 0.5 and 1% of the population. Exactly. And this is what we're talking about, guys. It's not that we're saying you have to agree with us. I don't think that you have to go out there and support every trans person on the street if that's not you. I completely understand that. But it should not prevent trans people from having access to rights that the rest of us have, to health care that most of us have, and to dignity that we all deserve. In the US, we're all supposed to have these rights. We the people, for the people, by the people. And trans people are people. Our sons are people. Our communities are people. And they don't deserve to have their rights ripped away. No one does. So, if you like us, thank you. If you don't understand, please keep tuning in. And if you want to be hostile, I get sometimes it's hard to understand something you don't have a conception of. I give you space and grace. And that be to the YouTubers who like to come in and fill us up, that's okay. Because guess what? I don't have a number of blocks that I'm prevented from using. Nor do I have a number of reports that I can make. So I can report every single one of your comments. So just know that if you're tuning in, you don't scare me. You don't scare Jenni. Bring it. We'll just ignore you. You want to know how cruel doctors are to some trans, especially. Yeah, no, Aaron, that is coming from I went to nursing school and just having a nursing instructor push back on me when I was talking about my son, who was even just talking about trying to have a gender neutral chest because the sex that he was assigned with at birth, genetically, he was blessed up top, unfortunately, which caused a lot of dysphoria. And some people, people can be cruel. Just simple as that. People can be cruel. And I just think it just should be, we should be able to get whatever support we need. That is what healthcare is supposed to be, is that people get the access to healthcare that they need. And it shouldn't be that some people get the access and some people don't. That's what the Scrimani case is that some people are getting the access and you're trying to say that a certain population, the trans community, can't have this. And I don't believe in that. I think everybody should get the access that they need. And what's equitable? It doesn't have to be equal. It needs to be equitable, what they need. Because what you need and what I need may be two very different ends of the spectrum. But that doesn't mean that you should have a lack of care or I should have a lack of care because we have differences. That's it. He and I should talk. Not sure who the he, Aaron. Says the 1970s. Yeah, no, I would agree. It is something, and see, Aaron just put it up there, right there, guys. It says the 1970s. Again, it's not new. It's not new. It's not new. That's longer than my kids have been in existence. Depending on how far you go back in the 70s, it's longer than I've been in existence. If you go back pre-77, then I wouldn't even exist yet. So there, my son, oh yeah, no, my son is definitely, he is, oh, yeah, a strong one, that boy. Drives me a little crazy just how stubborn he is. But nobody's railroading him. He'll just ignore them. I'm really just fighting so that I really want everybody to have the access. I myself have had a cutoff of access to healthcare, just as a person, and I think understanding the needs that the gender diverse need to have met for their mental health, that one is the reason why I want them to have the access the most. We should not have the rates that we do. We should not lose youth the way that we do. I don't lose anyone. And anything that reduces that rate. And again, if we don't support kids now, then you have traumatized kids that become traumatized adults if they make it that far. And I just want people to heal. I think we should be able to live our lives the way we want to. Everybody. And you don't have to agree with it, but it doesn't stop them from still being able to live. And that's the point that we want to make tonight. So yes, I'm not sure what next week's episode is going to be. We're still, will depend. Jenni was going to work on a guest, and depending on what happens with that said guest, we may do the cast review next week. Just push into that one. I do know that we have Arrive Therapy. It's coming on 2 weeks from now. So we will have another therapy group, gender affirming care therapy group coming on that we met through TikTok. And hopefully TikTok will still be going on the 19th, because that is when I would be uploading his episode, is on the 19th. And yeah, we'll see. We're recording it before then, but maybe I'll put it out on TikTok before then, so that it actually gets out before the 19th if it looks like it's going to be shut down. So we'll see. Anyway, okay. Well, with that, we've run over, and Jenni is non-communicado. It's okay. I love you too. All right, guys. So we're going to end tonight. Tune in next week. We will have someone here, whether it's just us and we're talking about another subject, or we have another guest. Either way, TransParents will return next week, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Tune in then, and we hope to see you soon. With that, good night. Bye, Jenni. Love you.